Have you seen the video involving this incident?
I saw the one that was on TMZ when he first got arrested, whenever it was posted.
So how many times have you seen the video?
Maybe twice.
You're saying in 3+ years since this incident involving your brother, one of your best friends, a man you work for, that you have only looked at the video of this charged crime a couple of times?
Yes.
In that video, would you agree, I can show it to you, in that video, would you agree that between shots that the defendant is running around with his gun out and appears to be looking for a line of fire to hit the victim? Objection, irrelevant. You've given testimony about the current location of the prop gun and how you went to New York and who you gave it to. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That wasn't in the statement that you reviewed with 12 bullet points, was it?
The one that you showed me with the 9 bullet points earlier?
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't in there, correct.
And it's your testimony, though, that you told the defense about this back in August of 2024.
Yes.
And the individual that you returned the gun to, are they alive?
They are. I gave you the info earlier. Well, we talked about it earlier. Yeah.
I'm just saying, they're alive?
That's correct, yes.
Do you know where that gun is today?
Specifically, no. Like I said, when I went to New York, I gave it back to him.
Well, so since you became involved, since you've known about where that gun went, since you gave it back, at some point in time, did you become aware that, you know what, the fact that it's a prop gun is important in this case?
Yes.
And you understand that if it's a prop gun, the defendant cannot be guilty of the charges because it's not a real gun. You understand that, correct?
That's correct. It's a problem.
So what efforts did you make in the last 3 years to try to get that prop gun back so that you could demonstrate, hey, my brother, he didn't do this crime? Did you make any efforts?
Yeah, I asked the co-director if he had it still, and he doesn't.
When did you ask him?
Specifically, I don't remember, sir.
Now, isn't it true, sir, that you testified you returned it in January of 2022?
That's correct, yes.
Did it seem strange to you that you were returning a gun?
A prop gun.
Huh?
A prop gun?
Is a prop gun a gun?
It's a prop gun.
So when I say gun, you don't need to correct me.
Okay.
When you returned the gun in January of 2022, by that time you were aware that your friend Rocky was potentially going to be getting in some trouble as it relates to that incident, correct?
No, I was not aware of that.
So, but you certainly knew 3 months later in April, correct?
Yes, when he got arrested, I knew he was...
And you knew that day, as soon as you heard about it, you knew, oh my God, I've got information, that gun's not real, correct? You knew that day.
Yes.
Did you go get the gun?
I was in LA. The gun, like I said, I gave it to the director in New York in January.
Did you make an effort to try to get the gun?
I told you I contacted him to see if he still had it.
When did you contact him?
And again, I don't recall the exact date, sir. This is 3 years ago.
Isn't it true, sir, that you didn't contact him for more than a year?
Sir, to be honest, I don't know the exact date I contacted him.
Well, let me ask you something, sir. Wouldn't you have instantly, the day you heard about the defendant getting arrested, wouldn't you have jumped on a plane to get back there and find that prop gun that would have gotten your brother out of the trouble that he was in? Wouldn't you have done it?
Sir, I contacted the director. I don't know exactly when to see if he had it. He doesn't have it anymore.
And so you just did you ask him what he did with it?
Yes.
Did you investigate further once he told you?
No, I didn't. I mean, he doesn't have it anymore. I don't know which one is it.
Did you go to the police and tell them what you knew?
No.
Did you go to the prosecution and tell them what you knew?
No.
You're aware that he had a preliminary hearing in November of 2023. You're aware of that preliminary hearing, correct?
Yes.
You knew it was publicized in the media, correct?
Yes. Yes.
You knew that, based at that time, that your brother, your close friend, could not have committed this crime because it wasn't a real gun, and you didn't do anything, did you?
I knew it was a prop gun.
Does you yourself, knowing it's a prop gun, does that help your brother with his legal problem if you don't tell anybody?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
You said you knew it was a prop gun.
Yes.
My question is, you understand the police, the prosecution, and the court needs to understand it's a prop gun in order for you to help him, right?
Yeah, nobody contacted me from the police or the courts. Nobody contacted me until like 2 weeks ago about the police or the courts.
Would you, sir, have had every incentive, every motive, every desire to contact the police and the prosecution to tell them, hey, my buddy, my close friend, my brother Rocky is innocent. That was a fake gun. Wouldn't you have had every motivation to do that?
I knew that this was going to court, and I knew I would have my time to speak about it here to the jury.
Well, so you decided you would wait, have your brother held to answer, have him brought to trial in front of 12 jurors, rather than simply going to the police and prosecutors and telling them, hey, listen, that was a fake gun. Is that your testimony?
Like I said, I knew that this case was going to trial, and I would have an opportunity to speak here in front of the jury and explain it.
I want to ask you again.
Okay.
Did you understand that by not coming forward, that you were putting your brother, your best friend, in more legal jeopardy? Did you understand that?
No, I didn't. I didn't understand that. I didn't. No.
So, you were present on April 20th, 2022, when a search warrant was served at Mr. Mayor's residence, correct?
I wasn't present when it was served, but I was there during the search, yes.
You were there when they were doing the search, correct?
Correct, yes.
The police, correct?
Yes.
The police, the detectives handling this case, correct?
Correct.
That man seated right in the back. Can you stand up for me, detective? You saw him at the defendant's house, correct?
That's correct.
I'm pointing the IO in this case. Did you walk up to him and say to him, detective, he was a prop gun. That's not right. He didn't do anything. Did you tell the detective that?
At that time, I didn't know any details of the case. I just got a phone call saying that there was a search warrant being done at his house, and I should go over there to just be there. I wasn't aware of any of the details of the case. This was early in the morning. I was just getting out of bed. I didn't know that he was being charged for. I didn't know what he was being charged for.
Didn't you already testify, sir, that you had talked to Rocky the day after the incident happened, and you knew that he had used a prop gun?
Correct.
So you're telling me that when the detectives are showing up, serving a search warrant, that you had no idea what it was related to?
I didn't know that this was going to be. It was going to a criminal case until that day.
So when it was that day and the detective is there, you wouldn't have had to call him, you wouldn't have had to go down there. He's right there, and you could have told him it was a prop gun. You could have done that, correct?
I didn't know the details of everything that was going on at that time, sir. I didn't know what was...
Listen to my question. Could you have told the detective on that day it was a prop gun, it wasn't real? Could you have done that?
When I was speaking to the detective?
Yes.
I could have told him, but I didn't have any details of what was going on, sir. It wasn't, at that time...
Most describe everything after yes. Did you tell him it was a prop gun?
Did I tell him it was a prop gun on that day?
Yes.
No.
Now, you were also aware, on that day, you were aware that they collected evidence, correct? You were there supporting your friend, is that right?
I was aware they collected evidence.
By the way, you said you got called when they were served the search warrant. Who called you?
It was somebody that was on the plane with him. I can't remember exactly who it was that day.
Well, so
It was like 7 in the morning. I was just waking up to just, hey, you have to go over to Rocky's house. They're going to search the house. And I just jumped in my car. I didn't ask questions. I just went.
why would you have to go over to Rocky's house when you're serving a search warrant at Rocky's for something that doesn't involve you?
Well, I've worked with him for a long time, and I actually like sometimes manage his property, so I'm able to get access to the house. I have keys, so I could have opened the door instead of them busting the gate open and running the door down. I mean, and if they needed anything in there, I was just there. You know, we have nothing to hide, so I was there if they needed anything. Even at one point, they needed to get into a safe that I'm so sorry.
What's that?
I'm so sorry.
Slow it down.
I'll slow it down. I
Slow it
apologize.
down.
So you go over to the house, and you are there when they are collecting guns, correct?
I was outside the whole time, so I didn't see exactly what they were collecting.
You became aware on that day or shortly thereafter that detectives did not find a prop gun, correct?
Well, yeah, there was no prop gun in the house.
So how did you know there was no prop gun in the house?
Because on January of that year, I brought it back to New York like I testified.
How did you know there was no other prop gun in the house?
There could have been another prop gun in the house. I didn't know. I know that that prop gun was back in New York.
Okay, so you also know that the detectives recovered that Glock 43 9mm magazine, correct?
Yes, I know now they did. Correct.
And it's your testimony that that was actually your magazine. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And it's your testimony that even though you do not own a Glock 43, that you bought a 380, correct?
I bought a Glock 42, yes.
Which is a 380,
380 caliber,
correct?
that's correct.
380 cannot fire 9mm rounds, correct?
That's correct.
And your testimony is that when you bought it, you somehow inadvertently got the wrong magazine. Is that right?
I mistakenly bought the wrong magazine.
And you
Correct.
didn't realize it was the wrong magazine until literally the day you went over to Rocky's house to end up in preparation for going to the shooting range, correct?
That's correct.
And because you did not know that it was anything other than a 380, right, a Glock 42 magazine that fired 380 caliber ammunition, correct? You didn't find that out until you go to the house and you're like, oh my God, this is the wrong gun. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you actually try to put it inside of your Glock 42 to 380?
No, what I was trying to do was I was trying to load it, and I noticed when I put the 380 ammunition in, it was a little too small. It wasn't fitting correctly.
So, Mr. Levin, if you were only using 380 ammunition, and if you're trying to put 380 ammunition, how is it that that magazine was full of 9mm ammunition?
I also own a Smith & Wesson M&P 9, which is 9mm. I brought both of my handguns that day, so I was loading up my Smith & Wesson magazines with 9mm, and I'm so sorry, I'm going too fast. I was loading up my Smith & Wesson magazines with 9mm, and my Glock 42 magazines with 380. So I had both ammunitions on that day.
Now, you're well aware that a Glock magazine looks nothing like a Smith & Wesson magazine, correct?
Yeah, correct.
They look nothing alike, correct?
That's correct.
So my question is, how is it that that Glock magazine, which you thought was to hold 380 ammunition, ended up being loaded with 9mm ammunition? How did that happen?
When I realized the 380 didn't fit, I tried the 9mm in there, and it fit. And then I further inspected it and realized it was a 43 magazine.
So, by the way, so you're telling me you then needed to figure out what kind of magazine it was. And so you decided to put a 9mm round inside the magazine, correct?
Yes.
So, sir, as soon as you put one 9mm round in the magazine, you know it's not for a 380. Why is it fully loaded with approximately 6 rounds of ammunition? A full Glock 43 magazine, full of 9mm ammo.
Because after we realized we weren't going to the gun range, and I packed everything up, I was just fidgeting with it. At that time, I had just first got guns, and sometimes I would sit there and I would load it and unload magazines just fidgeting around.
So, you loaded a magazine for a gun you didn't have, with ammunition you didn't know went into it, and then when it fit, you fully loaded it all the way. Is that your testimony?
Yes,
Because you were, quote, fidgeting. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Objection argument. Mr. Singh.
Isn't it true, sir, that this information about the Glock 43 magazine is what is called a lie? That it never happened, that you never took over a Glock 43 magazine there, that you never tried to load it with .380 ammunition, and then in fact...
Compound. It's really compound.
Wait, the objection was...
Well, he's in the middle of arguing that it's argumentative. There are a number of questions that you're asking. So you're asking question after question after question. So why don't you limit it to one question at a time?
I'm trying to, in total, Your Honor, because I believe it would go to the impeachment of the witness, but I'll take it one at a time and I'll do the total. So, your testimony. I want to be clear. Let me back up for a second. When you bought a Glock before, you bought a Glock 42, correct?
That's correct.
You agree that when you buy a new Glock, it always comes with two magazines, correct?
I didn't buy it new, I bought it used. I bought it secondhand from somebody.
You ever bought a new weapon?
Brand new? No. All of my firearms were bought through secondhand.
When you buy them secondhand, sir, wouldn't you agree? I assume when you bought your .380 secondhand, it came with two magazines, correct?
I don't believe so. It just came with one.
You said you know a lot about firearms, correct?
Yeah, I'm knowledgeable.
Is it your testimony that in your experience that when you buy a new firearm, that generally speaking, that firearm only comes with one magazine?
Objection irrelevant. Sustain.
Sir, isn't it true that the reason that 9mm magazine was at the defendant's house was because he had a 9mm firearm, a Glock 43, that he used in this shooting of Relly, and that was simply the second magazine that he forgot to get rid of? Isn't that what happened, sir?
No.